Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk. The CPL is over, and in fact, the IPL is already underway. But we got some comments from Jermaine Abel, who was one of the privileged journalists to watch the actual competition. And we spoke with him moments after the final, which was won by the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots over the St. Lucia Kings. And we were able to get his reaction to all that transpired in that interesting final and, in a sense, throughout the competition. Some time ago, I had a chat with Omar Phillips, the former opening batsman for Barbados. He also played for the CCC and a couple of test matches for the West Indies as well. And he will be sharing some of his ideas on coaching, and he himself is looking to really get into coaching in an even more serious and structured way. He is in Australia, and he shares his views with us long distance. And then, of course, not long ago, the West Indies women completed a series of matches against South Africa. They're only able to win just one match of the 5-match series, and that by virtue of a super over. So a series dominated by the South Africans. Deighton and Hartley, Reid, two very experienced cricket administrators. They have their views on what really needs to happen in women's cricket, and you'll be hearing from them. So, lots to look forward to. When we come back on Anything Cricket, let's talk.
Whatever the challenge that you face, you'll need effective insurance solutions. Look no further than IGS Insurance Brokers. We specialize in commercial, auto insurance, life, individual and group health, as well as pension packages.
Our aim at IGS is to offer the best possible service to our clients and at the same time to be a credit to the insurance industry in Barbados.
Call us at 242-7642. IGS Insurance Brokers. You can stay safe with us. Don't let annoying pests bug you. Lick them for 6. Omega Pest Control is the perfect solution. We are experts in termite and pest eradication, specialized mosquito treatments, foundation, residential, commercial, and industrial treatments. Call us day or night, or visit us at our office located at Fieldside Drive, Long Gap, St. Michael. Omega Pest Control. Call 425-5954, 231-6526, or email us at opcl@caribsurf.com.
Well, it's over, and it could not have been completed in more spectacular fashion. A victory off the very last ball of the match. How fitting for such an intense and really competitive tournament over the last several weeks, Jermaine Abel.
Well, to be honest, the tournament could not have ended on a better note. And it's fitting that St. Kitts and Nevis actually win the tournament because they've been somewhat the dominant team throughout the tournament, and I think it showed their all-round performance. The balance of their team actually showed up in the finals, and like I said, the crowd here at Warner Park was really into the game, and they came and cheered on their team. And as the Minister of Sports said earlier while speaking to reporters, it is an early independence gift for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, I see you're still at the ground because I think I can still hear some parking in the background. Is that correct?
Yeah, the party is actually still going on, even though they're presenting the trophies and the medals and everything right now, nobody has literally left Warner Park, and it's still work time. So, it's it's a still a party atmosphere here, and like I said, because tomorrow is actually a holiday, so everybody's just going to be partying from here on out for the remainder of the night until the curfew hits.
So this is a holiday that was created in anticipation of this win, or which holiday is this?
No, so there are actually two holidays here this week. So tomorrow is actually Heroes Day, and then Independence Day is on Sunday. So it's sort of a sort of thing, a precursor to the actual holidays. So the people are here out enjoying themselves, and what other way than to bring in the holidays other than having a party and the city's needed Patriots taking the title.
Well, let me wish you and the entire nation happy Independence Day for sure. In terms of the contest, though, what stood out for you? Yes, it was a very close contest. It was a fitting end. Is there any particular thing that you will take away and you think you'll remember, many years from now? What was the most outstanding thing of the final?
Well, if I had to put anything direct on it, is all-round performances that I've seen today with both bat and ball. St. Lucia, though they got off to somewhat of a shaky start, and their marquee batsmen, didn't come to the party as much as they would like. The standouts of Raheem Cornwall and Roston Chase, backed up by the lower order of Kilo Paul and those people, that actually stood out. And then they came back with the ball, likewise in the St. Kitts Nevis Patriots innings. But overall, I think it was I think for me, the overall thing about the finals, but not only the finals, would be the way the conditions actually held up for this tournament. As I was said earlier in the program, I was expecting spin to take some level of play, some part in this, but it didn't, and the conditions actually favored batting. And the people out here would tell you that it was an exciting game, and the conditions played into that.
No, I'm not trying to embarrass you or any I told you so type of thing, but as you admitted just now, you did suggest that St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots may have been disappointed and you didn't expect them necessarily to make the final. Just want to be sure that you're safe and you have somewhere to go. You can go home safely.
I'm good. Yes, I think they surprised everybody because it's the same pitch that played both semifinals yesterday, and we actually went into the evening, so there was slightly, just maybe a bit of a 12-hour, 13-hour turnaround between last night and today's finals. And to see the pitch playing very well, really good for batting, was for me was surprising. But like I said, the surprising thing for me about the condition one part is that it favored both bat and ball. Unlike at Trinidad, where you will see teams like the Patriots, the Warriors, and the Knight Riders actually dominating because of the slow conditions at the Brian Lara Stadium or the Providence Stadium or Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad. Warner Park stood up. I think that made a difference in the end when it came down to the semifinals and the finals of the competition.
Talking about making a difference, talk to me about the captaincy, the leadership of Glenn Bravo.
Yeah, that was key for the elimination segment of the tournament, because as we saw, it's one thing for you to have the experience of Gale, but Bravo brought not only the experience but that leadership mentality, and then he also played a critical role within the batting, and then his team selection was also key. So we would have seen that on display for the first 5 games that the Patriots would have played. But then when he got injured and he was resting, it was chalk and cheese. You saw the difference in the leadership style, and that lower order was missing a key batsman like Bravo. And upon his return, he got success. So it just shows that his experience and knowledge of conditions and the studying of the players in the Caribbean and in the CPL itself, was key, to the success of the tournament.
Now, if you look at leadership on that same theme of leadership, to what extent did the Kings miss Patrick after his injury and Fletcher had to step in?
It should, because they did not get that start that they wanted. And Faf, is a key player in any team, you know, he was one of those dominating forces in the early rounds of the tournament. And that leadership, I think Fletcher actually missed some key things that you would see in field placements, bowling changes. When should I bring on this bowler? When should I bowl Kemo Paul? When should I bowl Raheem Cornwall? I think that the lack of that knowledge and international experience in being a captain and that leadership quality is what was the difference today than it was maybe in any other form of the game.
Okay, we noticed watching on television that there were times when a number of players would have maybe sought to impose their views on what they believe should happen. Was this a positive thing, you believe, or did this create a more chaotic and uneasy atmosphere? I'm talking about for the Kings.
I would say that. I would say it actually created a really good atmosphere. I think the problem is they just could not find the correct balance on any day, and it's a problem that they had throughout. The batting for me was key in this entire tournament, right? And because they just could not have gotten off to that start, it just didn't do well for them. It just did not come together in whether it be the dressing room, because it starts there. When it came out to the pitch, you know, they just could not get that niche together, because even in last evening's game, you know, even though they played well, it just was not that decisive edge. They just lacked that edge of a team, and that was the same issue. If you look at yesterday with the Warriors, you know, they have on paper they have a really balanced squad, but you know, couldn't pull it out. Whether is there a problem in the dressing room? Was there a problem with a few people not liking the captain? So for me, it's just that the team did not come together for this game.
Having watched the competition and having, you know, been among the privileged, being able to be there in this COVID environment, having seen the cricket right at front and center, so to speak, what are your thoughts on the West Indies team? I know the West Indies team will not be selected only on the CPL, but obviously that was a factor. So in terms of the players that have been put up there, the 18 players, 15, 15 and 19 players. Yes. So what are your thoughts on the work of the selectors there?
Well, to be honest, I've always said this since the end of the second week of the tournament. The selectors actually found themselves in a conundrum. I don't know if it was a good thing or it was a bad thing, but from my perspective, that was actually, it is actually good to see that the selectors had a conundrum to select the best players for the World Cup. I wouldn't say that they selected the best players for the World Cup. There are a few people who could have made the squad. They're traveling 1920 for the World Cup, but it speaks really positive news. It speaks well for West Indies cricket, whether it be T20 or the 50 over version. Just looking at the CPL and the performances of players over the last 6, 7, 8 months of the year, and also dating back to last year's CPL. The issue is, though, I think, and I have my personal view on this, we did not select our best team for the World Cup. We omitted several key players.
Who these key players you think were omitted?
Well, the obvious, Odin Smith, Sherfield Rutherford, Mario Shepard, and there are a few others I could name off the bat, right? And for me personally, I don't agree with the fact that we should be using fitness as an excuse for selection of the tournament, when the tournament is still about 4 or 5 weeks away. We have, yes, you have to select your best players for the tournament based on the current tournament, because this is the cutoff window for selection. Now, if we select Sunil Narayan, Odin Smith, Romario Shepard, and Shafin Rutherford, and these guys you're saying did not pass the test, we have 4 or 5 weeks left to get them in shape to pass the test. It's as simple as that, you know. Okay, you guys are here. We have the CPL ongoing now. Have the coaches come down and assess whether or not they're at a level that could be described as being fit. Not 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks away, and then we're saying that these guys are still not fit, but they're still performing at the optimal during the tournament. Sheffield Rutherford is heading off to the IPL. I don't think any IPL team will pick somebody who is not fully fit to be part of their lineup. And even if they do select him, he has a fitness test that he will have to pass. He will go through the rigorous training between maybe the end of the CPL to maybe the second or third game of the resumed competition. So it speaks well for West Indies cricket, but I don't think the selectors would have done these youngsters any justice. They would not have done the region any good by not selecting these players and using fitness as an excuse, you know, if you want to select your best team. Because what happens when these guys are not performing now, and then we crash out to the tournament in the first round? What are we going to say about this if we lose it and we're knocked out in the first round?
Yeah, well, you know, I can't really follow your thinking there. I think the key word you use there is an excuse, because clearly there is more than enough time to, you know, for players to address any fitness concerns. I think it's probably just a punitive approach, really, where you're punishing players for what you consider maybe not looking after themselves as they should. If that is of any use to West Indies cricket at this point in time, I don't know. It's been going on a while now, so I would suggest that that's not necessarily the way, but we're not the ones making that decision. And I guess it's just another unfortunate chapter in the continuing saga of West Indies cricket.
I agree with that, because somebody asked the question recently, how frequent are these tests conducted on players? You could say, oh, we do random out of competition tests, you know, like water, you know, out of competition drug testing. But then what about when it comes closer to a series? Because I'm hearing, you know, when we attended a press conference recently for the selection team, you know, that caused some kind of confusion in the room when, you know, the chief selector said these guys did not pass the fitness test. So do we conduct a fitness test just before a series, or do we conduct a fitness test 3-4 months before the series actually starts? Because I would fail to believe or literally understand, and the rest of the region is people in the region are trying to understand what really, you know, when are these tests conducted? Because the World Cup is still a few weeks away. We heard Roston Chase and Hetmeyer fail a fitness test that was conducted probably 2-3 months before, and then they were not selected for one of the series earlier this year. So then it now baffles everybody. You've seen these 4 people performing at their optimal in an existing competition, or competition being played right now, and you're saying that, hey, you know.
So Jermaine, the party seems to be heating up, and I suspect that I'm keeping you from joining in. So because we can hardly hear you now. So I'm just gonna thank you very much for taking time away from, I guess you're balancing the celebrations and your duties as a journalist in getting your reports completed. So I'm not going to interfere with that anymore. Thanks for your input though and your insight. And don't be surprised if we call on you again to get some further insight in the days ahead, days and weeks ahead, as we all get ready for the T20 World Cup.
No problem. I'm always here, and do take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Whatever the challenge that you face, you'll need effective insurance solutions. Look no further than IGS Insurance Brokers. We specialize in commercial, auto insurance, life, individual and group health, as well as pension packages.
Our aim at IGS is to offer the best possible service to our clients and at the same time to be a credit to the insurance industry in Barbados.
Call us at 242-7642. IGS Insurance Brokers. You can stay safe with us.
Well, while much of the talk and discussion over the past week or two has been about the men and not necessarily because of any action at the international level, surely the CPL has been on, but the World Cup is still well ahead of us. And a lot of discussion about the selection of the team and so on, who's made it, who hasn't, and why. But the women have actually been out in the middle doing battle. And gentlemen, Deighton Smith and Hartley, Reid, two experienced former cricket administrators, the women have been doing battle, but they have been largely on the receiving end, haven't they?
Yeah, Philip, I will start by making reference to a comment by Shakira Selman made recently. Very intelligent young lady, always gives 100% on the field. I admire her immensely. But I think she might want to reconsider this comment. She said recently that the results on the field so far do not reflect how good a team they are. I think they were very much buoyed by the fact that they did well against Pakistan. But I am not so sure that Shakira or her team or the management of her team recognize exactly where they are in world cricket at the moment. I think if they take a good long look at it, they will come to the conclusion that they need to do a lot of work from here going forward. In this recent series, we had some performances that were below par for the players involved, but a lot of the players in this series are averaging what they have averaged over their entire career. And if that is the case, then are you really better than what you're showing here, or are you playing as well as you are capable of at the moment? What has made a big difference to the West Indies women over many years is the fact that we have, in my view, the best women's cricketer in the world. Unfortunately for them, in this series, she's not playing. That's Stephanie Taylor. Stephanie Taylor averages above 40 in one-day cricket. And we have a number of other players who average in the teens and below. And then we expect to compete with the best teams. That's not going to happen. In this series, Hayley Matthews has averaged 5.75. Kaishan Knight has averaged 5, and that's below the average. But over the course of their career, they haven't averaged much more than that. I think both of them averaged somewhere in the region of 20 or a little less. And whilst we know that Hayley Matthews on a given day can take most attacks apart, the reality is that without Stephanie Taylor, our top 6 is not good enough. And that's it in a nutshell.
Hartley?
Philip, I'm happy that Deighton has actually started in this vein, because you, in your opening remark, you talk about a battle. But a battle is when both sides, the protagonists, actually are offering some sort of resistance. I am going to venture to state here that Cricket West Indies, our women's team, have not yet even gone on the park. If you were to, in fact, I was on record, I am on record as state of complimenting Coach Sir Courtney Walsh and his team for what I saw the team's performances against Pakistan. And I look forward to a similar performance against South Africa. But I do not understand what happened in here at all. The same team has not shown up to play. Neither the bowling, Shamilia Connell has gone back to her old ways of bowling again. And the batting, with our major opening batter, Haley Matthews scoring 4, 3, 2, and 14. I mean, if your major cricketer who has just returned from the 100s, both she and DeAndre Deighton were stars, literally making runs match after match in the 100 in England just a couple of weeks ago. They have now changed local and have returned to their home, their domicile, areas where they know. And they are getting out DeAndre Deighton cotton ball twice. Haley, I mean, as Deighton has stated, if this is what we are going to offer the world in the World Cup, we could remove all of the senior players, replace them with those who want to be exposed to the international level, and let the world see that we have other players who can also fail that with effort. Right now, we have.
If I can jump in there a bit, Hartley, because I don't profess to be as knowledgeable about women's cricket as yourself and Deighton. But in following the various discussions on women's cricket, and also from my observation of it, there are not that many other options. So yes, I understand where you're coming from when you're talking about replacing the senior players, but who are you going to replace them with?
Now, this is where your problem is, Philip. It is not that there aren't options. The error started early this year when Cricket West Indies selected 30 women to go to training. The actual team, the 13 or 14 senior ones, and then the other 16 were, I don't know where they got them from, but you can see what they are producing. So I do not know what inquiries were made throughout the territories as to who were the women they had and what standards they were at. But I am sure that here in Barbados, I can produce 10 women who are better than all of those 16 that they would have brought in. And I'm just trying to do that because the truth be told, what you are seeing on display now at West Indies Cricket, it is clear that the women also carry a similar belief that you just stated. Well, don't care what we do, they don't have anybody to replace us. So we continue to be, they're going to play us, and players don't care what we do. And that it cannot work that way, Philip.
You think you see that as a major issue as well, Deighton?
Let me address the question this way, Philip. You asked who are we going to replace them with?
Mm-hmm.
I would ask a different question. We have the two Knight sisters. One of them has been playing for 10 years. One has been playing for, I think, 8 years. DeAndre Deighton started in 2008, I believe, so that would be 13 years. You get the picture here. If you look at our top six, Stephanie Taylor, Deighton. I think the most recent of those is Haley Matthews, and I believe she started Hartley maybe in 2015, somewhere around there. The point is that if it's 2015, she's at least 6 years in the game. And if you're asking me now, who are we going to replace them with? My question is, what has the West Indies Cricket Board been doing since 2008? When DeAndre and I think Stephanie started in that same year. What have they been doing? If you have all this time, you have the two Knight sisters. One of them has played 71 games, I think, in one-day cricket. One has played, I think, 50 odd. And between them, they have 1/2 century. And I think between them, they have 1/2 century in T20 also. So there are two questions that come to my mind there. I've seen them back. They look very sound defensively. All the ones I just called, they are, when they execute any given stroke, they look as though they know the fundamentals. So my first question would be, in all those years they've been playing, what has been happening in terms of development? What have the coaches been doing? What are the developmental programs that are supposed to have moved them from whatever level they were at then to a different level now? Remember, when they started, the West Indies was one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the world, and we dominated all the rest. Over that time, those other teams have improved significantly. So I have to ask, not where are the others, but why haven't we produced others? And secondly, I also have to ask from a selection point of view, is it that there were no others, or have we not tried them? Now, in this most recent series, you see they just tried Rashada Williams for the first time. And in the 2 innings that she batted, she did something that our top 6 really does. She passed 30 both times. If you look at our top 6 batters, it is not very often that they pass 30 in an innings. They can often get a good start, make 18, make 27, make 24. But Rashada Williams has just come to the team for the first time. And she scored, I think, was it 37 and 42 or something like that. But the point is, there's something there to work with. Now, her strike rate was not great. But having said that, I don't know if you looked at the strike rates in this tournament. They've been ridiculous. I think the only West Indies player in this series, remember we're playing T20s and one-day cricket, the only West Indies player with a strike rate over 50 in this series so far is Deighton. Are we going to try to compete in one-day internationals with strike rates below 50? Philip, if your strike rate is 50, it means that in a 50-over game, you can only score 150. That's what it means. Is that enough to compete at that level? And the answer must be no.
Well, I want to throw this question to both of you, though. It is clear that the performances are well below what is required.
Right.
There's no debate needed for that. There's no further evidence that needs to be presented for that. And before we even get to what are the possible solutions, what I'm going to throw to you is, I'm wondering the extent to which it's a problem in terms of a lack of skill or skill levels that require improving, or if it's just a question of not being able to read the game, understanding the game. So you mentioned, for example, that the players who would, in the top 6 would get to 18 and 20. But even at that level of cricket, even to get to 18 and 20, you must have negotiated some pretty decent bowling. So the fact that you're not going beyond that, is it a question of a lack of skill, or you're just not reading the game and you may be making elementary mistakes?
It cannot be a lack of skill. In fact, I can speak because everybody keeps calling my name with women's cricket, and because I have spent a lot of time with women. In Barbados, those same 2 night girls, Kaisia and Kaishan, indeed, this is the first time this year, this tournament here, is the first time I've ever seen Kaishana bat before Kaisia. Kaisia is an attacking opening batsman. Kaishana bats down in the order. I do not know what the coach and the coaches in this setup of cricket West have seen that we in Barbados haven't seen. But there is no way that Kaisia can bat after Kaishana. In fact, on Saturdays, any given Saturday, those 2 girls can give you well over 50 playing against men. So it is not that they do not have the skill set. Haley Matthews scored 99. I must have bet she gave her hand because she should have made a century at Rubis once again. In fact, whenever you hear me talking about in cricket and Barbados women, they are playing against men. Some of them who would have went to the highest level, but because of their advance in age, they're now playing 2nd division. But those years can bat. We have a young lady there named Aliyah Allen, genuine all-rounder, who bats number 4 in Barbados team. She's batting number 8 in the West Indies team. And when she is batting now, she's 9-10 jack and still trying to push on. And most of the time, there are the situation is there, is a hopeless case. This is what we are talking about. So they have the skill. My problem with the West Indies cricket is the management of it. And that's where I'm hoping that you would get there eventually. But it's the management of these girls that has fallen down.
So Deighton, Hartley has actually introduced a third concern, because I was throwing it out as either a skill issue or being able to read the game and make good cricket decisions on the fly. But Hartley has actually introduced a third element. Where do you see it?
Yeah, well, here's what I say. There is an issue with the mental approach to batting, okay? And here, let me explain it to you this way. If you take the current series, there's a leg spinner there, Van Niekerk, I believe is her name. And every innings, she's been very economical. But if you actually watch the cricket, you will see during her bowling spell, she bowls a number of half volleys that are patted back on the wicket. She tosses the ball very high, it's very in the air, very long, and the batsmen are very afraid to drive it. She bowls with a long on and long off, and we're talking about structuring an inning. This is different. So let me give you an analogy here. Philip, if I gave you a hammer, a saw, and a screwdriver, does that make you a carpenter? It doesn't.
Of course not.
It gives you tools.
Yes.
And so when you see the first part of an innings, where players coming and they're trying to play themselves in, our players are adept at defending their wicket. Then once you've been in for a while, you've got the wicket, the base of the wicket, your eyes are in, you need to develop your innings. And whenever they try to transition to attack is where there's a problem. That's where they lose wickets. So from a developmental point of view, from a coaching point of view, it's clear these girls have been taught the fundamentals. They can drive a ball, they can cut it. They can turn it off the pads. They can play any stroke you call in the book. They can defend their wickets well. But in terms of structuring an innings now, when you have to make a plan for that innings and say, okay, what I'm going to do is this leg spinner, I'm going to drive the ball down to long on and long off and get singles. They are afraid to actually do that. And so if you go into the nets and you're dropping the ball in front of a player and have them driving, it's a different thing when the ball is coming at you from 22 yards. And you have to actually make a judgment of, is this a half volley or is it not? And that's what we have to work on. I'm not going to criticize any individual player, but what I'm saying is we have to get to the stage where all of our players can recognize this is a half volley, I can get a single off this at least. And during the course of an innings, and you do that often enough, the bowler makes an adjustment and you get a bad ball. What I'm saying is we have to move to a different level of preparation, not just about how can I defend my wicket, but game scenarios where I need to score at 4 runs and over, 5 runs and over a period of 8 to 10 overs. And we need to be training them to do that. And I can't see that happening out in the middle with our players. I see us defend our wickets well. As soon as we try to transition to attack, we drive the ball in the air into somebody's hands. That's
Deighton, that is a 100% correct assessment of what is happening with our women. Our women need 22-yard pitch and constant, they actually need match games so that they can penetrate what is going on. If we do not do that, all of the practice we do in the world is going to just look very pretty for the camera. Drop ball and that. But we have to have game scenarios where those, listen, there's not a shortage of where we can play in this region. So get those women together and play them in matches. Or not we are going to be at sea without their battle.
I think our cricket in the Caribbean generally, there's a issue we have to address, and it is this. We have to explain to our players, and not just explain to them, but show them how to do it. The difference between scoring and scoring boundaries. We either defend the ball or we throw everything at it. And in both, and that happens in our men's cricket too, Philip. You always hear
very much so. Very much
commentators talking about turning over the strike, getting singles. It doesn't happen because We are not.
And there's been a
There's
lot of
something
focus
wrong
on
with our
on
preparation.
on the dot balls in T20 in terms
Exactly.
of the stats that
There's
they're
something
exposing you
wrong
now. So you
with our
see it.
preparation. Yeah, we're not preparing people to say, how do I score? Not how do I hit boundaries, but how do I score? And that's a very different proposition from how do I hit boundaries. You have a long on and a long off, take advantage, get singles down there every over, pick up 2 and 3 of them every over, and the scoreboard is turning over. When that boundary board comes along, the bowler is under great pressure. Anytime you score 3 singles off the first 3 balls of the over, that bowler knows that a boundary will mean 7 is off this over. The bowler is now bowling under pressure. If you play 3 dot balls, you are under pressure and not the bowler.
But gentlemen, I think that what you're talking about there exposes a very serious problem, because if you look at the men and you introduce the fact that the men have a similar issue, and I do agree with you, but the men, if you listen to the interviews from the captain, but in fact, we can even go as far as the coach. I'm talking about the men now. There's always this talk about this power, this whole concept of power, and you can tell that that's what they're into. But then we've had some guys, I would have to say in recent times, yes, you had your Marlon Samuels before, but out of the current crop, you've got some guys now who, like a Shamar Brooks, who to my mind has been almost as much a revelation as Roston Chase, except that he hasn't gone on to get the big scores. But in terms of his approach, a very similar approach. Roston Chase, the same thing. And you could actually count the guys on one hand easily, maybe even on 2 fingers, who have adopted this approach. And I suspect that this is something that they have worked out for themselves. So my concern here with the women is these guys who have, you could say, taken long to work it out, not necessarily too long, but they've taken a while to work it out for themselves. I'm talking people like the same Brooks and Chase. But they play a lot of cricket by comparison to the women. So if the culture is power,
right,
what then can transition these women within a culture where they're encouraged to go for power? What is going to help them reach the same point that you now see Brooks and Chase are at?
Well, I'm going to do the same thing I did to you earlier. I'm going to ask you a different type of question. I know you've heard these interviews over and over again in which a West Indies coach, not necessarily the current one, but a West Indies coach over the last 20 years would have talked about the number of dot balls. You would have heard batsmen come to interviews and talk about turning over the strike, about scoring singles and twos. You hear them talk about it. It means they are aware of it. So my question is, between the interview and the next innings, what are we doing? Because it has to be a process. It can't be simply saying we need to do something differently and then next match you go there and do it. There has to be some process between the thought and the execution to say, how do I change my style? That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with us having our style of game, you know. I like the fact that we have very powerful players that can intimidate a bowler.
But you don't need 11 of them.
Not only that, you don't need to hit every ball in the over out of the ground. That's the whole thing. The thing is, if I have power and I have scored 4 singles in this over, the bowler is under great pressure in the last 2 balls because he knows if I clear the boundary now, that's 10. That's what I'm saying. The power is a factor that puts pressure on the bowler. So what you need to be doing is, and I'm not sure, I'm not there, but I know I can't see any results. What are we doing in terms of preparation, in terms of practice, in terms of working on our style of batting, in terms of our thought processes? How are we working on the fact that we could turn over the strike here and there? Let's talk about Roston Chase. His strike rate in this last CPL tournament was excellent, but between those boundaries, he was playing the cricket that he learned in Test cricket. He was driving the ball. He was playing it off his pads. He was turning it around the corner. He was using soft hands and running singles. All of those are techniques of batting. It is not just about the ones that clear the boundary. I mean, would you consider Virat Kohli to be a power player in the class of Chris Gayle?
Of course not, no.
Do you know that in international T20s, Chris Gayle's average is 29? And Virat Kohli's average is 52? Do I need to say anything else, Philip?
You don't.
But listen, we are so fortunate. The Cricket West Indies, the women, have been in camp for about over 90 days. They have had a number of, serious camps at college. This is something that the men the men do not ever get. So it is clear that Cricket West Indies would have recognized that the women needed more bonding time, together time, more time than the men. So they were actually brought together. So I would have thought that during all of these days, all of these weeks together, at some stage, you will have them sitting and discussing issues. Listen, if I may, and I don't like to talk about myself very much on these issues, but Barbados could not beat Jamaica or Trinidad at all in the regional tournament. Would not beat them.
Men,
no, the women, not the women. This is when
okay.
I took over, and when I took over, and I said, but this has to stop. So apart from what we implemented in Barbados by the BCA, we also I sat the Andrew Dutton in front of me, and she was made aware of her importance and her seniority within that structure, and that how many runs she was expected to make, a number of balls she was expected to face. And we won back in 2016, we won every game, beating Jamaica twice to win the tournament. The reason why I said earlier in this show that it has to do with management is because you are the manager. And we always talk about coach, and I have no problem with coaches. But the coaches, in my view, they talk your application on the field. The manager's job is to get in your head and make you aware of your responsibility. There is no way that Haley Matthews can be out caught trying to hit the ball over the bowler's head in the first over, in the second over, or out ball cutting. Those are shots you do not play at the commencement of an innings. You cannot say that she is like the young lady that Deighton made mention of, who has now come into the team and has hit the ground running. Now, if you were to look at her, she doesn't look finished, you know. You can see she's not a finished product, but she's productive. That's because she recognizes that she has limitations and she plays within those limitations. We have cricketers, and it was the third test. Yeah, the third test. Kaishana might open. And in 10 overs, the score was 20. 10 overs, the score was 20. And all Kaishana was doing was patting the ball. And all I'm saying, but what is going on here? This is not the Kaishana that I know. Similarly, Kaisia, I used to have to tell Kaisia, say to Kaisia, temper your shots. Your shot selection, you're going crazy. You want to hit every ball to the boundary. Another thing, they have fallen now into this idea that everybody must hit a six. They didn't have made mention of it. Everybody must hit a 6 run. So they don't know how to play the ball into this. Fella, only 9 people can field on a great field, you know. The other one's a bowler, the other one's a keeper. There are only 9 people out in the field. And a vast expanse of land. That is what our players, our women must do. Get to the pitch of the ball, and as Deighton said, enter the spaces.
Guys, we can go on like this forever because it's cricket and it's something that you and Deighton are very passionate about, even more so. That's women's cricket. Deighton, any closing thoughts?
Just to say, Philip, that the last thing I think we have to do is this, and I go back to Rashada Williams. All the players I mentioned are top 6 there. They've been fixtures in the team for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, sometimes more. And my question to you is, if I am failing and I am never dropped, what is my motivation to do better? I think sometimes, even if you think a player is not as good, you have to send a message to the player who's failing to say it's not good enough. So you need to be changed. And I think that motivates people to go away, work on their game, and come back again. And you and I know over the years, we have all types of examples of people who've done that. They've been dropped. Matthew Hayden was a total failure the first time he came to the Caribbean. He later became a world-class opener. So sometimes you need to give a player a rest for their own good. I think we needed to think about that.
I have said that time and time again, Deighton. It's not to say that you are dropping players. You are making them understand they have to be responsible for their actions. And if you are not producing, like in any other job, if you do not produce, you cannot get paid, you get fired. And another thing, we cannot go forward with this crop. The Cricket West Indies has to go back into the territories and find new players that they can go forward with. Because as I'm going to end, Philip, as I started, if we go to the World Cup with the way how these women are playing, we will not get out of the first round.
So therefore, lots of work to be done, gentlemen. And of course, we've got to get some other stakeholders together with you guys, and we're going to thrash this out some more in the coming weeks. Thanks to Deighton Smith and to Hartley Reid, two very experienced former cricket administrators. I mean, dare say, two fairly decent cricketers in their day as well, although I suspect Deighton may think I'm shortchanging them by just saying decent. But that's a discussion for another day. Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, Philip.
Don't let annoying pests bug you. Lick them for 6. Omega Pest Control is the perfect solution. We are experts in termite and pest eradication, specialized mosquito treatments, foundation, residential, commercial, and industrial treatments. Call us day or night, or visit us at our office located at Fieldside Drive, Long Gaps in Michael. Omega Pest Control. Call 425-5954, 231-6526, or email us at opcl@caribsurf.com.
So once again, it's a pleasure to have Omar Phillips on our show, the former Barbados CCC and West Indies cricketer, who has been down under in Australia for a little while now. Welcome once again, Omar.
Hey, Philip, thanks for having me. I left in 2018. Obviously to play club cricket over here for a club called Strathmore Cricket Club. Been here, this is my 4th year I'm going to be playing for them. They obviously entrusted me with the head coach role again. So obviously with COVID, we got stuck. In our first year as coach, when I came here, me and Justin, we won the competition. It was the first time in a good couple of years that they've won. So that was a good achievement. The next year, we lost some players, and then due to a lot of injuries, we were struggling to put together a consistent squad. So we're there about mid-table. And last year, we missed out on finals. We got knocked out in the semi-finals due to a rule change, which made it difficult for us to carry on to the finals. But we've been competitive, won the top sides in this comp. So we did a lot of work to get to this stage, especially with bringing through juniors and helping them to play with the experienced players so that they're easy transitions for the next level.
You said that you were the head coach, so how much how much credit should you get for this success that you guys have had? Were you the head coach at that point, or is this a new role?
Yeah, my first year came, I got chucked straight in the deep. I wasn't, at first it was supposed to be assistant, but then the head coach had moved on, so then they threw me straight in the deep. So, which was a good challenge. Obviously, it was my first time coaching a big club because they're a very massive club in terms of the numbers they have and the amount of the junior programs and what's not, which was a good challenge. But for me, I think it was a wake-up call for me to enjoy something different. Obviously, always from coaching back home at some of the schools I've been to, always enjoy the challenge of different styles of how people do things and the different makeups or the structures of the clubs. As obviously over here is a lot different to home. In the first couple of months, obviously was time for me to get to know the different styles of how they do stuff training wise, because it's a lot different to home. Team meetings, obviously game day structure, which was kind of challenging in my first year. I was a bit frustrated with it because obviously when you play at a high level, you expect to be seeing standards. So it took a while to get used to, but then after that, it was smooth sailing, fantastic. As I said, it was obviously shocking for me for them to actually continue, and obviously the club was happy with the amount of work and the development that they're seeing their junior program have improved. So I think for me, I enjoy that challenge, and now it's like a walk in the park.
Okay, you said something about standards, so you're suggesting that they haven't played at WI, where we all know the WI program is very professional. So you're suggesting that maybe when you went into the new environment, you didn't have that level of professionalism? Or you're saying that the level of professionalism there was
obviously it wasn't as professional as I thought. As obviously where we come from a background in Caribbean where we push hard to win.
Mm-hmm.
Here is all about participation. So it doesn't matter win or lose. Sometimes for them it's just having a goal at it and giving people a chance to just play. So it was a bit frustrating, as I said, for the first, because we know how competitive our cricket could be in the Caribbean, especially at the elite level, where you want to win. It's all about winning cups.
Has that changed though? Has that mentality changed since you've been there? Are they more focused now on winning, or are they still having the same?
Yeah, so now we have won since I was here in the 4 years, we've won 5 cups so far.
Okay, so you've obviously changed that mindset.
Yeah. So it was all about, for me, the most important part was changing the culture and the mindsets of how they do things and how select teams and how we go about the development for obviously the juniors to make that pathway into the senior side. And what has been good is that this year we had a guy that probably in the last couple of years only managed to score like 100 runs a season, 125. This year he made over 600, and it goes to show it just takes a little bit of hard work and changes the mindsets to make that dream become a reality.
And of course, as coach, that would be very satisfying for you.
Very satisfying is indeed. Obviously, I put in a lot of work outside of my actual coaching hours, so I make myself available for guys who want to improve to get to the next level. So during probably in their spare time, if they spare hour or two, and I make myself open to actually improve, because as we know, if they improve means the team improves. So it's been working. I had guys that never, even in the lower teams, that never try to do one-on-one training, seem to buy into the whole doing the outside of cricket work. And it's seeing that we won cups back to back. And obviously, all the teams being in a semi-final was fantastic to see. It shows how strong we were as a club, especially even on the 18s. We went into semi-final on the 18s, so it shows a lot where we have come from, where usually would be one team in finals all the time to having 4 to 5 teams.
Okay, you're talking about under 18 and the junior program. You made quite a bit of mention of that. Is there more cricket? Are you exposed to more cricket where you are, the less say you would get typically in Barbados, more competitive cricket? I don't mean you personally as a player, but is there more competitive cricket, or is it what we're saying?
I guess when you look at it, it's about the same, but in terms of different structures. So in our, if you look at home, one club would have one on the 15 team. Here, you got more than one. So you got different levels of, so just like elite. So you got elite first division, and then intermediate, then you got second division.
So even at junior level, you have different levels. Yeah. Okay.
Different levels. So as I say, it's all about participation, and those kids get exposed to a lot of games. And then there's, outside of that, when you get selected to be in, I think it's Craig Shield which is an elite program for those kids to go on and represent Victoria. So it says a lot. there obviously a lot more opportunities over here in terms of where you can go.
Okay. Now, earlier I mentioned when you talked about professionalism, I talked about the fact that you're very much a part of the elite program. But that's not the only professionalism that you've experienced, because you also represented Barbados and you represented Test cricket. You played Test cricket as well. I think you had a couple of matches against Bangladesh. It was that seemed such a long time ago. How has all that impacted you in terms of what you do now, how you see cricket, what you try to talk to the other players? Where does all that fit in?
Well, being a big influencer on these kids, it says for me, they try to follow me as a mentor. They wanna when I first arrived, obviously being Test cricketer, and the way they look up to you says a lot. There's a lot different to Caribbean where people will look at you like, oh, that's Omar Phillips. Over here is when you play at a certain level, the respect and the drive to want to be like you. So you gotta watch. Obviously, you gotta watch your off-field behavior as well. So. Obviously, I never went in my first year. I never really took it to obviously because we from Caribbean, you never get praised up that way. So you just would be like, oh, just an ordinary person. And I guess that made our boys feel like, oh, because normally they're accustomed to people probably like that when they reach a certain level, don't like help or mingle or line, what we call at home, line with them. So for me, how I come and fit in with them says a lot, because now like I'll be here, there, off the field, invited. Oh, could you come by me for Christmas? Oh, my family wants to see you. The kids always talking about you, and that's what you want. So I said they look up to how you train, how you go about your business, especially in games, how you prepare yourself mentally for tough challenges, how you face a particular bowler. So it was a massive influence how you go about it. And the standard, as I said, when I came, the standard wasn't that high for how they train to how we were at home. Like I tell them like how we would train for like preseason all out. But I think their preseason is good in terms of fitness compared to the Caribbean. They focus a lot on a lot of fitness, but that's where we now come and incorporate the fitness with skills, trying to do skills. Normally it would be fitness and bat and ball, where you just go and net some ball and bat. Where now you're picking a game down. I brought video analysis into it so guys could see themselves rather than me telling them all the time, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. They could watch themselves and see actually what you're saying. And that's one thing that I admire back home. Was saying to them back home, people would tell you you're falling over, your feet not moving, but you can't see it. So, it's better to see it so that when you hear the explanation that you could actually use it to improve.
It's interesting when you spoke just now about fitness and then skill development, and you suggested that they were focusing on a lot of fitness and then what you call bat and ball, but then you made it more structured by actually doing skill development. And those who've been listening to me, and I don't know if anyone listens to me, but those who may have been listening to me recently talk about West Indies cricket would probably think that we rehearsed this because what I've been saying for a while now, and I really don't know who's listening, that there seems to be a virtual obsession in West Indies cricket with fitness. And I'm not saying players shouldn't be fit, don't misunderstand me. Fitness is important for everybody, including 90-year-old granny. That's why you have programs for senior citizens that involve physical exercise and things like that. So fitness is a given. My concern is that it seems now to be an obsession to the point that the cricket skills seem to take a backseat. Now, why I'm saying that, players have been left out, as you probably would have heard, even from that distance, because they've not been fit. So that would suggest to me that the players who are playing are supposed to be fit. So you're playing with fit players, but losing badly. You barely beat Sri Lanka, which is right now one of the bigger teams in the international scene. You just lost to South Africa, which is also a team with even probably more problems in the West Indies. And you're playing with fit players, supposedly,
but fit players who have obvious problems. Now, you can be as fit as the fittest person ever. If you don't have the skill to play shanty, you're in trouble. And it's interesting that you said that you recognize then the need for cricket skills along with the fitness. If only those of us in the region who make those decisions could recognize that.
Yeah, so obviously I'm a big fan of Hitmaier, and I think he's a massive talent. It's very sad to see where he's gone backwards per se, and people looking at the fact he's not fit or whatever. But for me, he's not moving like an unfit person. If you look at it, he's put on some size, which I was a little disappointed in. But I think we tend to. That's the biggest mistake, and that is something that I think Cricket Australia are looking at the moment in terms of not just focusing on the data. We're looking at skill set to make people better, because as I said, everyone's fitness levels are catered to slightly different. So it's not that you want Cornwall to run 50,000 laps. You got to find a way to make him actually match ready, and that's one of the things that coming here was an eye opener, how they do their business in terms of only fitness side. And if you look at in my first year, I was saying to Justin, I remember saying to Justin, look at how these guys, you don't need to tell them they need to go and run. It's something that is better to them because of Australia's fitness requirements. I'm talking not just cricket, I'm talking about in general, any sport. Obviously, outside of sport, people go to the gym every day. It's like a routine. So it's something that better into them rather than our culture who would sit back and wait for you tell them to go and run 50 laps to get fit. So when you get to preseason or probably game days, is not much for the trainer to do, because he knows in your mind, I need to be at international level, so I've already put in there hard yards. So you could just come in and focus more on the skill set. So that's where I look at the difference here to back home.
So basically, what you are saying, without even saying it directly, is that if fitness is going to be that big of a problem, then there needs to be a change in the culture. And I'm not so sure, if that's what you're saying, I'm not so sure that changing the culture is going to be done in the way that they're going about it right now. But I suppose, who might you say that? But, you talked about, what you found there in your experiences, at home before you went to Australia. The fact that you would have played at the highest level. Do you miss it? When you look back on the opportunity you had to play Test cricket and the fact that it was so limited, and you thought that was, personally, I thought that was unfortunate. I suppose even back then they were picking teams on things other than cricket scores. Because you played 2 Test matches, and if I remember correctly, and you had a 90 odd in there, didn't you?
Yeah, 94.
94. And then you didn't make it to the squad for the one-day series that followed, if I remember correctly. So I suppose selection issues were wrong even back then. But as I was saying, do you miss it, or to what extent do you miss that, or have any regrets?
Yeah, every day I say to these boys is like a drug, where you wake up every day is a routine, something to look forward to, being competitive, miss the banter with the boys, and obviously to go there and represent your country is something special. So every day you put on that jersey, cap, whatever, you get to represent your country is something special. Some days people ask, would you go back and play? And I would go like, I would love to, but obviously it would take some getting back into. Not saying that I'm not to that level, because obviously for the last 3 years, I had good seasons where I've made loads of runs still. I still put in the hard work here now. Obviously, better facilities to perform over here in terms of your practice wise and what's not. So I must say I do miss it. Obviously, watching the guys train, and then when you see West Indies performing and what's not, you try to put yourself in that position to try to emulate or whatever, to see who would have thought I was there. I try not to look at the negative side where I didn't get picked back, because obviously that's how life works. That's how life works. And obviously it wasn't for me to have. So I don't try to look down or cry down a person for making a decision. At that time, they thought that that was the best decision to make, obviously not to include me. And I don't hold nothing against anyone for that.
Okay. Watching West Indies though, and the West Indies struggles in all formats, how difficult is it? Yes, it brings pleasant memories because you were once among them, so to speak, and you reflect on that I would imagine with pride and satisfaction. But how frustrating is it, from the point of view of the fan, wanting the team to do well, knowing some of these guys are your personal friends and guys that you played with and against? How does it make you feel? What goes through your mind?
Obviously, me being in Australia, I got to be up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to watch cricket over there. So yeah, especially looking back at the last series was very hard to stomach, because when you look at some of these shot selections, shows that the guys didn't put it in their hand to be, that fighting spirit to actually.
And I emphasize again, these are fit guys.
According to data, yes, they're fit guys. But there's cricket fit.
Yeah.
So looking at some of these shot selections,
and there's game awareness as well, which is a separate thing. Yes, fitness can impact those things, but yeah, it is game awareness and skill development that I think needs to be worked on. But you were saying,
yeah. So obviously, I did a program a couple of weeks ago where they were focusing on West Indies cricket, trying to compare, obviously, here to West Indies, the setups. And I had to let them know, there's something they don't know, is that we don't even have an academy, which is very, very bad for an international side. Mm-hmm. You must at least have one. And for the region where it's spread across different countries, is even harder. So you got to at least find ways to come together. Obviously, we keep crying financial. But we got to find a solution. It's all about finding solutions. Everybody finding a solution to make it work. And if you look back, the same Bangladesh, they found a solution. They came up with an idea to get academy in. And you saw the results of how the Tamil Iqbals, the Shakibs, and then started to rise in performance. And I was even looking back at the Shea Hope form. People have been crying, oh, he's good in one-day cricket. It's a different test. Test cricket got the right name. It's a test. You know what I mean? It's not easy to not be a natural opener, to go to open in test cricket where you're playing against one of the best bowling attacks, who's going to consistently challenge you. And it's going to be a mental strain. So it all goes back down to the mental setup of yourself or the individual. I think that's where we lack. I don't think we look back, we don't lack talent. You see this young side, this look that they got the fire that you want, but it's down to that mental capacity where we falling short each and every game, that we find ourselves in good positions and then click. Why? Because you prepare short, so your mind's set up for short. If you want to prepare for the long term, you got to do this thing consistently. Looking back on us, even on that, looking back at our first half structure, we need more cricket. You can have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, and then want to play against guys who, if they're not playing first class, going to be playing state cricket. So it means same competitive drive. In terms of experience, we need to get guys in our setup outside of the Caribbean to play in different competitions. Not when you come home, is home to line with your friends, or just a matter of hit balls. Game preparation is key, and game practice is key. So we gotta come up. We got too many resources that we look past each day, not to be a lot better side. I'm not saying that you're gonna walk up and beat England, you're gonna walk up and beat, but when these sides see what you have to offer, should be a bit scared. Not saying, oh, I don't want to go there because that's an easy series. I said the structure, how we train and what's not needs to change. We've been doing the same thing for the last 12 years. Need stuff like batting camps, I remember back in the day, we used to have batting and bowling camps. Now we get together for 2 weeks, and that's about it. You can't prepare for one of the best studies and get together 2 weeks. How much work you're going to get in 2 weeks?
Another name I'm going to throw out there, Russell Chase. You think there could be a role for him in the white ball form? We saw him in the one-day internationals within the last year or so until the incident where he was deemed not to be fit for selection last year. You think someone like him could make a difference in the white ball?
Yeah, he showed it already that he got what it takes. Obviously, he's going to bring a difference in the bowling as well. As I said, we're looking for somebody that could still strike the ball and play spin properly. He's one that showed that he can handle it. So that could be a key piece of the puzzle. Who knows?
Basically, you're looking for a replacement for Marlon Samuels. Basically, if you really think about it at the World Cup level, where both World Cups that West Indies won, he would have played an instrument, really key role alongside the power hitters. But I think there's this emphasis, and nearly all the interviews, those who are being interviewed on the West Indies level, talk about the power that they have, and somehow you get the impression that they believe that that's all that's required.
Yeah, funny enough, me and a guy from Sydney had a conversation a couple of days ago, and he said the same thing. West Indies missing that Marlon Sanders effect, and at first I never put it to thought, but then when I study, yeah, he's correct, because that's some person that used to come in and know how to change a game in terms of not just bashing. He was the person that got anchored in it, and that's what we want. Not all of, because if you look at all the games that we lost in that series against South Africa in T20, everyone, even in the overweight Fabian Allen, had that was an easy get home.
You mean the three white balls that went between the legs?
Yeah. So yeah, trying to be a bit.
In other words, normal sensible batting and cricket awareness would probably brought them a little bit closer to that target.
Yeah, even in that last game that we lost to lose the series, lack of rotation was the problem. If you look at the amount of dot balls that we faced, you look at Hitman, who I thought would have probably put up his hand and be like, yeah, he's a better player spin, having come from Guyana. Mm-hmm. I thought that he would have been one to put up his hand and say, well, this is the job. Okay. So somebody needed to take that role and say he's a fantastic player when he's really going. As I said, the mental part of it, I think he needs to get right. Anytime that you have a lineup, and obviously with him in it, you could see that he's a game changer. Let me look at it this way. So that is the reason why I asked to have more games for these players to play. I don't know, obviously because of finances it's hard, but when you look at the players, when these senior players are available, look at the amount of players that got the drive, the talent, and what's not, who's going to sit on the wayside for another 2 years. So you're wasting the cricket careers. Mm-hmm. And we know a cricket career is very short. So you can got those guys who, I've seen it happen a lot. Even it happens here. You got guys waiting in the wings, and then you know what? That drive is gone, form is gone, and they struggle. So I think that we should be able to come up with a structure where we could get more teams in, so that you got your pathway players not sitting waiting to get a chance. So and that was our mercy cry for a good couple of years, and I don't think that we saw it. We had good players who, if you look at some teams like Trinidad, they could post 3 teams. Barbados probably the same. Jamaica, they're about, and Guyana. If you look at the teams that played, the same players for the last 10 years, not much changes. So you got your pathway players coming from on the 19 up. They're going to sit there till about 24, 25 with nothing to do, no experience to gain. So there's a big gap. Yeah. And that's where we got either come up with a tournament to suit these pathway players. Who knows? First class B.
Mm. And it's worked
class B.
before. It's worked before. Yeah.
Yep. So you got first class B, and that's what, when you look back at, I was thankful to be in a position where I played for combined campuses and colleges. Who knows? I probably would have been never even playing first class.
Yeah.
At that time, nobody probably would have known who he was, because I would have been waiting in wings. I'd probably gone to a different sport. Probably, who knows, finish play cricket to line with your friends. It's that easy, because I remember coming up with players like Nicholas Squares, who I thought had the talent to go a long way. And look, he doesn't even play now. So we gotta come up with a way not to lose our talent on the pathway to test cricket or one day cricket, whatever international cricket we have, and work out structures for these guys to keep developing, because cricket is going forward. Each day is a different development coming through. And not only that, if you look at coaches in the Caribbean now, we need to keep doing programs for them to keep educating themselves. And that way, when you look at your structure, you wouldn't have to go outside of the Caribbean to find a coach or the talent to help with these boys. You will have all the resources you want in one place. So it would be less, the cost would be less. As I said, development would be less on you, because say if you done 30, 40 high performance coaches across the region, you could set up programs where these coaches are in charge of this particular group, that particular group. And each month you got to send back in your data on these guys, so that West Indies board have all the access to their development. But as I say, it's going to be costly, and we know how we struggle with cost at home.
Well, you certainly got a lot of ideas, and I guess you can forgive me for wishing that you can come back and share some of those ideas and help reduce West Indies cricket. But that's your choice, and that's what I'm going to throw to you now, really. What plans do you have? What is ahead as far as you would want for Omar Phillips?
Well, obviously still playing at the moment. I still play along with the coaching, but in near future, my mindset at the moment is to start my own academy. It would be good if I could get my own indoor center, but that's a long shot off. But who knows? That's a plan where I could work with pathway players, obviously to give you experience, and obviously to bring, not for myself, but to bring other players that I played with in my time or been around, to also engage and give back as well. Because as I say, I'm a person that I love to see the next person succeeding. So I'm not all about Omar Phillips. I'm about the next. I'll choose the next person before I choose myself. I've been doing that for years, which I think is a good thing for me. Sometimes people talk about, oh, you should be here playing for money. You should be doing that. Yes, it's all well and good for me. The smile on a kid's face is worth every penny. So I prefer to see that than to be chasing money here, there, everywhere. And then when you look back, all you had was money and not an experience with a kid who has never played the sport, but now is decent in the sport and is happy. So I say it'd be good to get that up and running. Who knows, being over here, what pathway it could take you to, because over here's a lot more opportunities when it comes to coaching. It's very easy to get your coaching pathway started.
Well, I suppose a part of that preparation for your academy is your current exercise in branding. I know you've got a lovely new logo that you are displaying in another platform, another forum. Tell us what that's about.
All right. Well, obviously I've been coaching a while, and obviously never had a logo before. So I was, a good friend of mine said, why don't you get a logo and promote yourself? Because I was never a person. I would do my stuff behind the scenes, even like these Zoom calls these days. And I've never been one to try to be out there or what's not. So we had a long conversation and said, listen, you are a brand by itself. So you need to promote yourself. You are good at what you do. And then obviously some of the parents that I coach the kids said the same thing. It's like, you're good at what you do. Promote yourself. They were actually gonna do it behind my back. Actually go there and get the logo done so I could start up and obviously do some camps and whatnot. So then I said, you know what? So I done one the first time, which is the cap I'm wearing now. So that was the first look. And then they said to me, no, we need something more cashy. So then I was recommended to this guy, and obviously he took long to get back. The first guy took long to get back to me. So then I was browsing the internet, and then I actually found this guy called Nick from Upwork on freelance as a freelancer. So I sent him some ideas. I told him I wanted similar to what I have now on my cap, but he said, no, I'm going to give you a twist to it. Obviously you play cricket and what's not. When he sent the first one, I wasn't too keen on it. But then he said, hold on, I'll fix it up and send it back because it won't look good now. You're going to see it at the end. So then obviously he came back with that particular logo that you saw on my social media, which I fell in love with. It's very simple. You could see a bit of the O with a bat in front, which simulates is a cricket camp or cricket related to cricket. So it was good to see the response that I got when I posted it because I wasn't sure. So I put it on social media to get a feel for it so people could see, and the response was fantastic. And I'm very proud. I think this is probably the biggest journey now, is to continue to promote myself, and hopefully it could carry me to the avenue I want to reach.
Okay, well, certainly that would be great, and Anything Cricket, let's talk. Wish you all the best where that is concerned. And I would like to think that Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean will be behind you, because when you do well and when you make a positive impact elsewhere, it can only reflect in a positive way on Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean.
That's our show. Thanks for watching. We'll be taking a bit of a break at the end of season 3, and we'll be coming back to you in a couple of weeks with a brand new season 4 of Anything Cricket. Let's talk, and we invite you to join us then.